Welcome to Shardcast, the Brandon Sanderson podcast. We're a bunch of mega fans giving you the news, discussion, and of course, a whole lot of opinions about Brandon's works and the Cosmere. Before we do intros, Rhythm of War is out, and there's so much to talk about. We're going to do weekly podcasts for a while, but this episode is not going to be full Rhythm of War spoilers. It's just going to be spoilers through part 2, and mostly just for the epigraphs. But I don't know, let's just say spoilers through part 2. So that's what we're going to do. The epigraphs are really hype, so I'm so excited to do this. Mm-hmm. I'm Eric, and joining me is Ian.
Hey, I'm Weiry.
Also joining me is Evgeni.
Hi, I am Argent. I was going to show off some of the things I have, but I'm not going to because the episode is more important than the things I have.
Wow, that's the first time that's ever happened. Those priorities have ever switched.
I have a hair tie.
Wow, incredible. Also joining us is David.
Hi, I'm just pretty jealous of that hair tie. Other than that,
people are just like, I'm out. I'm clicking close on this YouTube window.
Yeah, I got nothing like that. I am Windrunner on the forums, and I'm glad to be here.
Also joining us is Alyx.
Hi, I'm Feather Rider, or sometimes just Feather. Depends on how I'm feeling.
The overlay just says Feather, because the rider is too long.
I'm Feather today.
And also joining us is Ben.
What up, nerds? It's your boy. I need to stop saying that. It's one of those things where you start saying something ironically, and then you start saying it unironically. Hey, you also know me as Overlord Jebus. Hey, guys.
Hey! So today... by the way, so spoilers, right? Through part 2 of Rhythm of War. I almost said Oathbringer. It's gonna keep happening.
Also Oathbringer.
Also Oathbringer. Yeah, we will have lots of other Cosmere spoilers, but probably the main one you should definitely have read Mistborn Era 1. That's really important for this episode.
Maybe some Era 2.
Era 2.
And Era 2, but like especially Era 1.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah. So, part 2 epigraphs. Oh my god, guys. It's a letter.
Oh my god.
And it's Harmony to Hoid, and there's a lot more in this than I expected.
Yep.
So
four times as much, maybe.
Four times. You know, I really wanted to name this episode "Oh Harmony" in the title because it's like, "Oh my Harmony, whoa, this is so crazy." But then it's like that's kind of a spoiler for what's in the.
See, I was thinking something like Shardcast, but you know, we can.
We'll just make the title bland, so no one can complain about spoilers, and then we can go crazy in this episode because it is insane. We had to record this. This was so exciting.
There's a reason this is the first episode coming out after Row, right?
Yeah. We're going to do Rhythm of War reactions next week, so you guys have all the time to read the book, and then that's what we'll do. And then, I don't know, there's so much exciting stuff. Are we just going to do epigraphs? Like, I don't know.
We'll figure it out.
I will figure it out.
I mean, I think part 1 epigraphs will also need their own episode. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff there.
I know. There's so much. There's so much.
Yeah. But we can explain it to a broader Fabrials episode.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
We'll see.
Probably.
We'll see.
Lots of stuff on the horizon.
We're going to go through the letter kind of quickly, and then we're going to do more expansive nerding out, okay? Because I think it's good for us to actually like get the whole letter. Also, because there's some that's just like Harmony talking. It's just like, okay, whatever. Like it's not much specialized in a few. Like this whatever. All right, let us begin.
The letter opens with, "Dear Wanderer, I did receive your latest communication. Please forgive formality on my part as we have not yet met in person. I feel new to this role, despite my years holding it. You will admit to my relative youth, I think."
So obviously Harmony.
And Dear Wanderer. Wanderer is a well-known title of Hoid.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Including a short story thing called Wanderer.
Yeah. Yep.
Traveler. I have been fascinated to discover how much you've accomplished on Scadrial without me noticing your presence. How is it that you hide from shards so well? I have reached out to the others as you requested and have received a variety of responses. Much as you indicate, there is a division among the other shards I would not have anticipated.
It is interesting that Hoyd can hide from shards so well, but I guess that's a technique that he would have needed to perfect ultimately.
Yes.
Yes, I like that. This is the second time Harmony's commented on this as well. So it's like he's like, no, seriously. He's like, you read
no,
the first
seriously.
letter, and he's like, no, seriously though, how do you do that?
I would really like to know. Thanks.
Like,
Do we remember the contents of the first? Oh no, we don't know the letters from Hoyd to Harmony, do we?
No, we never saw
correct,
those
no.
letters.
No, so we don't know what he's asked. We can kind of judge that based on the variety of responses he's gotten.
Yeah.
We know he asked for help about Odium
yeah.
because most of the shards were like, lol, no.
I guess
Yeah.
the
Yeah, Harmony was the only
implication
one that.
who really was
And
receptive.
yeah, and so it sounds like Hoyd got the letter that we see in Oathbringer and then sent another one back to Sazed. And now we're getting the response to that communication.
Yeah, I assume that it was just a generic letter similar to what Hoyd sent Frost. That wasn't that different, but just, didn't have reptile and stuff in it, right? In Way of Kings. Okay, now for the exciting part.
And I get to read this part.
Yes.
And we roll the dice.
We roll the
got
dice to see who
this
gets to
next
read
bit.
this section.
Because this is, oh boy.
Oh boy.
For anyone who's seen Community, we just created 6 alternate timelines based on who gets to read this
Let's
section.
find out if one we're in this here.
Anyway,
Okay.
This is the part of the letter that's like, Brandon did what?
Yeah, seriously though. Oh my god.
Let's do it. Endowment at least responded to my overtures, though I have not been able to locate invention again following our initial contact.
Shard!
Whimsy was not terribly useful, and mercy worries me. I do think that valor is reasonable, and suggest you approach her again. It has been too long in her estimation since your last conversation.
Pause for a second, Ben. Oh my god, there's 4 shards! We got 4 shards!
Yeah. And it starts slow, like you get one,
I was like, oh, okay.
and they're like, okay, like that's our new shard for the book. And then the next one drops, and there's 3 more, and your brain short circuits, and
Oh my god.
you don't know what to do.
Brandon's like,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's been a Cosmere drought for a bit, so I got you, fam. Harmony is gonna
And now
get
it's a
you.
deluge.
for audio only listeners, I suggest coming to find that bit where Ben is reading just to see everybody's faces. while it's
Seriously, though.
happening.
A
I was
full
in my head-
quarter of the shards revealed in one
Quarter
go
of the yeah, when you think about it like that, a fourth of the shards and 4 out of 6 of the ones that we don't know.
Yes.
So we almost now know all the shards.
It took us 3 Stormlight books to get this many shards.
Yeah, and then in one we got all this.
It's like,
I
hey,
know.
let's just list a bunch of shards.
It does kind of crack me up. Like, Brandon can obviously give these away in any way he wants, but he's always like, well, I just can't give away intents. Like, we have to. And he's just like, what if I put 4 in?
He mocks
Well,
us.
no, so that's like because he thinks about the words carefully and like we'll probably talk about this later, but
Yes.
there have been suggestions that invention may have been called ingenuity at some point, and so like he's playing with this stuff.
Oh, yeah, but he also is like, I'm not going to give away shards just to anybody, too. It's not like he's always like, oh, I don't know the synonym. Like, he's clearly deciding
just give
not
him
to.
the Hoyd through
Yeah.
this.
The Wanderer.
We're going to talk about
I
this
would
in
like to say. Oh yeah. I would like to say. So when I got my hands on these epigraphs, like I just went and read all the epigraphs at once, and obviously my head exploded, and I had to recover bits of brain from the immediate area, and then I realized that I retained no information about what was said in these
The rest of the
epigraphs.
letter. The rest of the letter was completely irrelevant after that drop.
Look,
Like,
we don't even need to read the rest of it.
we can play this for 90 minutes
We're
just
done.
on that.
We can do that.
On a different day, the rest of the letter would also have been interesting and like maybe even worthy of an episode. But like the sheer force of 4 shards getting name dropped just erased everything else from my brain, and I had to go back and like reread every epigraph slowly to actually retain things.
Yes.
I can't believe
Let
it.
me finish
Yeah,
this section.
go for it.
Let me finish
Let's do
this
it.
section. The deaths of both devotion and dominion trouble me greatly, as I had not realized this immense power we held was something that could be broken in such a way. On my world, the powers always gathered and sought a new vessel. That said, the most worrying thing I discovered in this was the wound in the spiritual realm, where ambition, mercy, and odium clashed, and ambition was destroyed. The effects on the planet's Threnody have been disturbing. Other shards.
Cool. All right.
And it just keeps going.
It just keeps going. Other shards I cannot identify and are hidden to me, which is insane. I fear that their influence encroaches upon my world, yet I am locked into a strange inability because of the opposed powers I hold.
So,
Autonomy.
yeah, it's got to be autonomy.
Yeah.
For Scadrial, but maybe some others.
In my head, when he can't identify them, I was like, well, he knows autonomy because we all know autonomy. It hadn't occurred to me that, maybe that's what he's talking about. I thought he meant the last two.
Well, also
Like,
those probably
hidden
too.
Maybe.
Oh, those two probably as well.
So where do we start?
Well, so we don't start here.
Yes.
Yeah,
We're
let's
finishing
Should we
the
keep
letter.
going through the letter?
Let's finish the letter.
letter.
Because let's be honest, this is the most interesting part of the letter, especially if you've been in the fandom for a long time. But we will talk about these shards in depth.
Perhaps of note is the fact that there is a spiritual wound.
Yep. And just,
Yeah.
there's another shard that was battling in the Threnodite system there. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So I am as concerned about this thing as Harmony is, because I don't even know how that could be a thing.
What does a wound in the spiritual realm mean?
And I wonder
like,
if that's
why?
manifesting as the scar.
Mm.
The sequence of red stars.
Yeah.
But that's not near Threnody.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I mean,
that's
it
dumbass.
doesn't matter.
The
like,
There's a wound in the
spiritual
spiritual realm
everywhere.
that's manifesting as a scar in the physical realm.
It seems the wound is directly impacting Threnody, so I don't know why it would be across the star cluster
Yeah,
to
yeah,
impact
Everything
Threnody.
is wounded
But
in the spiritual realm.
Yeah.
And it's also interesting. It's also interesting that Sazed finds what's happening on Threnody disturbing, especially combined with Naz's comment from Secret History about Kelsier becoming a cognitive shadow without the proper rights. So there's stuff there that we can talk about later.
Yep.
So moving on with the letter. I have begun searching for a pathway out of this conundrum by seeking the ideal person to act on my behalf. Someone who embodies both preservation and ruin. A sword, you might say, who can both protect and kill. But this does not get to the core of your letter. I've encouraged those who would speak to me to heed your warnings, but all seem content to ignore Odium for the time being. In their opinion, he is no threat as long as he remains confined in the Lusharan system. I do not share their attitude. If you can, as you suppose, maintain Odium's prison for now, it would give us necessary time to plan. This is a threat beyond the capacity of one shard to face. Unfortunately, as proven by my own situation, the combination of shards is not always a path to greater power. We must assume that Odium has realized this and is seeking a singular, terrible goal: the destruction and somehow splintering or otherwise making impotent of all shards other than him. To combine powers would change and distort who Odium is, so instead of absorbing others, he destroys them. Since we are all essentially infinite, he needs no more power. Destroying and splintering the other shards would leave Odium as the sole god, unchanged and uncorrupted by other influences.
I love that Brandon is putting information that we knew from WOBs from like 2011 that I got into the books. I think that's really important for Brandon to do, to make that explicit that that's what Odium's plan is, because most people are not going to read Words of Brandon. So this is very good. I really like this, even though we all know this already.
Yeah. Sometimes it's hard to remember what we know because of WOBs and what people who just read the books know. And I'm like, oh, wait, yeah. Which is
Going
totally
through
about
this-
like, you don't have to read WOBs, clearly.
Yeah.
But
Going through this with the wife has been very much a case of I don't know what I know because of what's in the books, and I don't know. I'm like, do you even know the names of all the Knights Radiant? And it was yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that I find very interesting in this is the comment about shards needing no more power because they are essentially infinite, which is really nice. It makes a lot of sense. And it also kind of recontextualizes the fact that Odium is a little bit afraid of Harmony, right? So Odium wouldn't be afraid of Harmony because Harmony has 2 shards, like because Harmony has the juice, the investiture of 2 shards, because we are comparing infinities in this. I think he would be afraid of Harmony, 1, because he's an unknown quantity, and 2, because maybe he thinks that 2 shards give the vessel more options to do things. Not necessarily because like sheer amount of power.
Yeah, because in the Cosmere, as far as we're aware, one person taking up 2 shards hasn't happened before. So that
As
kind
far
of
as we
he's an
know.
unpredictable. As far as we know, those last 2 that we now, the final 2 that we don't know, they could be combined in some way. But as far as we know, this hasn't happened before. So yeah, that new element to it, where it's like, is 2 shards more powerful or more restricted, is something the shards might not know.
Right. I like the thing where Harmony's like, I'm searching for a sword. And it's like, that's very interesting. Given
When he
later
goes to
books in the
wax.
timeline, because Stormlight Arc 1 is before Mistborn Era 2.
But we'll get into that a little later.
Yes.
It is very little before, because Era 2 takes place between the
Right.
front and back halves.
Right.
Well,
of
it
Stormlight.
takes place after part 5. We don't know where it's going to fall. Like, it could happen after book 7.
No,
like,
I think it happens in the gap.
See,
Brandon has said like he doesn't know exactly when it's going to fall.
Okay.
Here we go. You say that the power itself must be treated as separate in our minds from the vessel who controls it. I find this difficult to do on an intrinsic level, as although I am neither ruin nor preservation, they make up me. Regardless, I will try to do as you suggest. However, you seem more afraid of the vessel. I warn you that this is a flaw in your understanding. You have not felt what I have. You have not known what I have. You rejected that chance, and wisely, I think. However, though you think not as a mortal, you are their kin. The power of Odium's shard is more dangerous than the mind behind it, particularly since any investiture seems to gain a will of its own when not controlled.
Interesting that, like, in basically all of this, Harmony's always using the shard's name, right? Whereas Hoyd's letters always refers to the vessel.
Yes.
Yep.
Because like that's what he knew them as, so he still thinks of them as those
He
people.
personally knew those people, yeah.
Which is so fascinating to me.
It's like,
And it's a
Harmony's
detail that, like, we've just, I don't know about you guys, but I've just never picked up on the fact that the shards refer to the shards as the shards. And Hoyd always talks about the vessels. And it comes Harmony being like, you need to reassess your priorities here.
Well, even Endowment was like, oh, Uladal was going to be a problem. It's like, it's not referred to her as ambition, right?
Yeah, true.
This could be something where like the old crew just uses each other's names with each other, as opposed to the shards versus the mortals.
That's what I was thinking too. This is more of a Sazed / Harmony thing than it is anything else.
Sure.
Also,
Yeah, because it's like talking to these shards, they probably did introduce like Endowment probably didn't go like, "Hey, I'm Edgley." It's like, "Hello, I am Endowment."
yes.
Right. Yeah. That's what
Yeah,
they
I
are
like
now.
the in-book confirmation that Hoyd refused a shard. I don't think we've had that before.
That's another good wob that Brandon's mixing in. It's like, oh, and it's wise.
No, that was in Oathbringer. Because Endowment's letter says like, "You had your chance, you refused."
Okay.
But I like how Harmony's just like, yeah, no, that was a good choice. In retrospect,
I wonder,
that was a good choice.
I wonder if Harmony's ever like, man, I wish someone else would have done this.
Yeah.
I feel like Sazed is the kind of person who understands that he might be the best person for the job, even if he doesn't want to do the job, and therefore wouldn't want it to be anybody else.
Yep.
Even if he doesn't like
say that.
think it's great. He's just a good person like that.
Yeah.
All right, and I will finish us off with the last part of the letter, which says, my instincts say that the power of Odium is not being controlled well. The vessel will be adapted to the power's will. And after this long, if Odium is still seeking to destroy, then it is because of the power. Of course, I admit this is a small quibble, a difference of semantics more than anything. In truth, it would be a combination of a vessel's craftiness and the power's intent that we should fear most. Regardless, please make yourself known to me when you travel my lands. It is distressing that you think you need to move in the shadows.
Like, please, please, Hoyd. Come on, let's just be friends. Why are we doing any of this?
It's like, I don't understand why any of this is happening.
I know. Poor Harmony.
Yeah. On that note, it's really funny that Hoyd is the driver who listens in on the conversation that Wax has with Harmony in either Alloy or
it's Shadows.
It's Shadows.
It's Shadows.
Yeah.
Oh, that's totally right, though. Oh,
He was right there.
he was right there. Oh,
Yeah, I know.
Like, Harmony's like, could you stop climbing in my window? Like, I have a doorbell. Just knock. Stop it.
I know, and Hoyd's the one asking for help too, and Harmony's just like, will you please show yourself to me?
I think there was a wob that we saw before we started recording that was, someone asked, how much did Hoyd know about what Harmony did with Wax? It's just an interesting question. I think it was just a wrap, right?
I don't recall.
I'm not sure.
I don't remember. Probably a Raffo or like something to the effect of a Raffo.
Yeah, like more than you think. And then you're just like, oh, okay.
Thanks. Thanks, Brandon.
Thanks, Brandon.
So I want to bring up, I think it's really interesting here, the talk that Cezad has about the power and the vessel and the way that they interact. I think we get a little more insight about that from the new Ja'anat interlude.
Yes.
Because she senses that there is, I'm trying to remember how she phrased it. It's like a flaw and a dissonance between the power. And she thinks that that's a weakness that could be exploited. That there's like Odium wants obedience, but the power wants passion and questions and people talking back and pushing back.
Yeah. But race doesn't like Ja'anat talking back. It's like, no, shut up.
It's just, it's interesting to me that I feel like we saw like Vin's destructiveness when she picked up preservation, like that not marriage as like a strength. She was able to do something with the power that its old vessel couldn't. But now with Odium, the fact that he's not maybe totally in sync with the power is something that could be used against him.
Yeah.
Yeah. One aspect of this is definitely the fact, I think, that Raze is an old vessel. And like, because I think we have a WAB confirmation that shards, like when people ascend to a shard, they can do more with that shard's power than they can years or centuries down the line.
To begin with,
like,
chaos is restricted.
Yeah. So like, Cezad probably can't reshape the world now the way he could at the moment of his ascension.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Vin could use preservation for destructive purposes a little bit, not completely, until she could completely.
For that,
and Raze,
fine.
It wasn't necessarily like, it was an overt attack, but it wasn't a combative attack. She basically went in for a hug, and their powers destroyed each other. And then, other than, there's like, I'm going to like stab you with a sword.
It was also in like the name of preservation, right? So I think that's easier to like rationalize.
It was a nullification, not a destruction.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I guess I kind of like thinking about it myself. It seems almost to me like at this point, Ray should have been more shaped by the intent, and he should have been more in alignment because he's such an old vessel. And
That's
so
true.
In my head, I'm thinking more like maybe he's been like kind of like white knuckling it for 10,000 years or whatever, like trying to do like hold on as hard as he can and like defy the power when it disagrees with him. And then he's become more tired, and now it can kind of, get a little more aggressive with him and a little harder for him to control as his control weakens.
That's why his colors are white, because it's the color of his knuckles holding on to the power.
But that's a really good point, though, because like with Ruin, we just sort of like, oh yeah, Ati was like totally shaped, right, by the power.
I was say 80. There was that wobber a little while ago where I always misquote it, so hopefully I don't misquote it this time.
You probably will.
Where it was where 80 fought back against the shard and the shard for so long that he kind of didn't redirect it to pure destruction. They kind of came into a compromise. Still way into the equilibrium.
Can I finish the sentence that I was going to say before you interrupted me? That would princess. Be great. No, like it's just getting to more of like a decade ago, right? We saw Ruin be. We kind of assumed that it was very well shaped to the shard's intent because that's what Hoyd said, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But like this is just showing in book that doesn't need to be the case, that there are still differences between the vessel and the shard.
Like they even after these thousands of years, Race and Odium, Race still hasn't quite reached that equilibrium maybe that 80 managed with Ruin.
So a question I do have is, do we think a vessel that is perfectly in tune with its intent is more powerful than somebody who is white knuckling it per se?
I would think so.
I would say so.
How do you define powerful?
I mean, that is a good question.
What is powerful? Welcome to Shardcast. Welcome to Shardcast.
Use their
where we
power
talk
more
about shards.
effectively.
Yeah, and my just like initial gut reaction to that is like if they've been shaped by the power, they're probably way more effective at doing things in accordance with that intent. So it's really more like, are you really good at one thing, or are you more flexible earlier on when you haven't been as molded by it, but also probably not as good at doing that one thing and less effective? But
my kind of thinking was, say, for example, with ambition, was if Uladar was a very ambitious person, then she might be able to think of more ways of using her power to be ambitious and would be better at using it. Someone who's not very ambitious might not be able to even like think about how the options of open to them might not be as clear. So it may not be less not that more powerful, but just they can use the power better because they are more in tune with what they can do, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think that does get into the question also, though, like how much are you allowed to go against your own personal nature to pick up a shard? You know what I mean? If you're not an ambitious person, even if unless you've got a Kelsier like Pokeball full of power on you, can you pick up that shard, or are you going to have some trouble?
Well, like the attunement to a shard to pick it up is just still so weird, right?
Because you have to be connected.
I still don't understand how Sazed was properly connected for both of these, but
he had a really hard year.
He had a hard year. Like, okay, sure. I'm just expected to go with that, I guess. Sure, Brandon.
I am curious about, I feel like somebody must have asked this before. So you guys feel free to pull the wob up on me and be like, lol, Feather, you don't know these things.
That's why you're here.
But yeah, exactly. I'm the every person in this. But talking about Harmony's intent, does Harmony have an intent that is Harmony, or does Harmony have two intents that are ruin and preservation?
Two intents.
That's what I would figure.
Two intents, but there's some mixing.
If he dropped the shard, he would drop Harmony, not ruin and preservation.
Yeah, it's weird.
So yes, but like, I think it's even here he is talking about ruin and preservation as distinct entities.
Yeah, I think Harmony. I think Harmony is almost like we talk about shards being able to, like work against their intent just a little bit. And I think Harmony is Sazed's conception of what ruin and preservation together looks like.
Yeah, because we have a wob that could have been Discord or something.
Yeah, it could have been. That's a scarier skate drill. But
and that's part of why he can't do much is because those two intents are pulling in opposite directions.
Yeah, that was
something that they both agree on is hard.
That was actually one of the things when I got this information about Odium. It's like, oh, he wants to destroy all the shards, and I asked, Brandon, oh, so is like Sazed fine? And he's like, no, Sazed is not fine. He is still being pulled in those two directions. He described it like tidal forces. Like you're still being pulled just in two directions, not just one.
Do we think that like millennia down the line of like holding these powers together, like he could align them in a way that has like a singular harmonious intent?
My opinion is no.
I'd like to think so.
I'd like to think so too. That feels like a nice project for him to work on.
Yeah.
It is. It's really weird for me to think about Harmony's intent because I always associate the intent with inactivity because of Sazed's inability to do much. But that's almost just preservation, right? So preservation wouldn't want things to change, and Sazed is not capable of making many changes because of his unique nature. And so I wonder if him being Harmony will lead to something more overtly destructive down the line. Like maybe he needs to be kind of a give and take type of shard in a more active way. So preserve something, destroy something.
Yeah,
I think maybe. I think he's in my head. He's already kind of doing a little bit of that with having Wax be his ruin, quote unquote, and Tensoon being his preservation. Like, and he's kind of like, okay, I can wield these two things as tools individually, and probably have to balance some sort of scale in there in terms of how much I use one or the other. But I think that would be allowed within the concept of harmony, that he's allowed to take actions to preserve some sort of harmony instead of just sit there. Because he did fight back against the things that happened. He did send in agents to prevent things. But he's just he's not a direct action guy.
Alyx, your question about can Sazed like meld those powers more is just such a really interesting question. And I think we're not going to get answers to it because this is the core of the Cosmere, right? The shards. Yeah, what's going on with that? Because our conception of vessels and stuff is changing. Like vessels do have some effect, but I've always been of the opinion that like the shard's always going to win, right? In the end, like
in the end, yeah.
You're not going to. I don't think Sazed's going to be able to do that much, really. Like I think the intermingling is somewhat a force of will, but just more a consequence of being held by the same person. Like anyone, the powers would have started to intermingle just because he is made up of both of those things. Like when you're a shard, your body's vaporized, whatever that means, right? And you're just like pure energy investiture, right, of the shards, and now it's both of them, and so you obviously have to be intermingled somewhat, right? So kind of like that. I don't know how much Sazed can make something like that happen more. I would probably say not much.
See, I think I'm going to go against the grain here and say I think that he would be able to do something like that because we've seen smaller units of investiture be able to be combined, like recombined again. And I can't remember who it was, but someone in Discord the other day pointed out that like one of Brandon's big themes for the Cosmere is rebirth.
Yep.
And so I'm like, okay, and resurrection. And so in my head, I see that all being very thematically similar, and people don't like the reassemble ad nauseam but different theory, but that seems like that'd be very fitting with a rebirth type.
I mean, I think that's definitely a plausible end of the Cosmere, right? Like it is.
Sazed pretty much says going back to the vessel being taken over by the shard. Sazed says as much in this letter. He says that if Odium is seeking to destroy, it is because of Odium. It is not because of Rays after all this time.
It's just really interesting. I'm so interested to see like vessel versus shard, how much they're affected, how much they're not, and like autonomy's doing weird crap with everything. And it's just really weird. We're going to explore this over a lot of books. So these are the questions that we need to ask, I think, that Brandon will just auto-raffo, and he should, I think. But like...
the purpose of a storyteller.
Yep. Yep.
I really. This reminds me of when he did that Reddit post where he said, "I'm writing." When we asked him about a bunch of shard vessel stuff.
Oh, the patch thing. Yeah.
The patch thing. And then he said, "I'm writing these big, massive fantasy epics to explore these concepts, and that's what we're getting here. We're getting him exploring these concepts.
We're getting shards.
Yes, please."
So,
speaking of shards,
no.
I was gonna say. Other thing. Do we want to talk about Harmony's sword real quick? Just
why don't we do that? Because we're talking about Harmony. So let's do that. So when I read this line, I was immediately reminded of Wax. That this is what Wax.
Same.
This is what Harmony is planning to do. He's like, wow, I can't act, but what if we could get someone to act? And he's formulating this, and then Wax is the result.
I also thought of Wax. I disagree.
Yeah.
Because I think that we've seen Wax portrayed as his ruin, not preservation specifically, which could change. I'll give that. But the plot arc that Wax is on is Wax is going to end up a responsible senator in the city of Elendel. And it's going to be doing that's where he's headed. That's what Wax's arc has been about is I'm not going to be this active, action-y guy. I need to learn my responsibility and do.
Yeah.
So unless what he wants from Wax as a sword is to be a really, really good senator, I don't see it being Wax.
So I do think Wax is involved with this. I don't know if Wax is endgame goals for Harmony.
He could be a prototype.
He is I think that
poor Wax.
First attempt.
Harmony is trying to figure it out. And Wax is kind of the first person that
I was going to say
I'm choosing to do this with.
I'm already not happy with how Harmony treats Wax and what he's done to his life. And so if this was all just a test run and he's going to throw him away and just, be like, I tried.
In Sazed's defense, I don't think he is thinking of it as a test run. He is earnestly trying to make Wax into this sword. I just don't know if he's going to be successful.
I think in Lost Metal, we're going to realize that Harmony has failed in what he's did. And we're not going to see Wax in Era 3 or Era 4 as Harmony's dude, right? I think it's not going to go well, or he's going to die or something. I don't know. Or just refuse Harmony.
I'd rather it be Marasi or something, or have this be direct foreshadowing for Era 3.
It could well be foreshadowing for Era 3.
Mm-hmm.
I have a thought.
Turn it into preservation sword into an office that
bureaucracy.
You are preservation's Harmony's sword now, and when you get old and tired, it passes on to someone new to take up that. Yeah,
that's a mantle. That's a great name for a Scadrian spaceship, Harmony's sword.
See, I just imagined an actual office building, and I was like, no.
Yeah. No, but it's a valid point. So my thought was, Harmony, the wielder of preservation and ruin, is interested in creating a sword, a champion, if you will, although this is a charged term, which may or may not apply.
Right.
Similar thing.
And so somebody who can protect and somebody who can defend and also attack. And I'm thinking, well, that somebody will probably need to be uniquely connected to ruin and preservation. And there is one of those walking around.
Marsh?
No.
Kelsier.
No.
I'm leaving.
No, Harmony's anti-Kelsier. He's like, nah. He didn't let him come back. He's like, no.
And I get that there are objections to this idea, and I'm not entirely sold.
I hate how much
myself.
I like this. I hate it, but it seems fun.
Well, that was me with the unmade Dawn Shards theory from a while back.
Kelsier as a shard blade he becomes literally Harmony's sword.
Oh my God.
That would be hilarious. Harmony's
Kelsier bonds with Wax as his friend.
Hoyd goes to Scadrial and tells Harmony about shard blades. It's like, look, this is how you do it. What's up? These 5 scholar guys, they didn't do super great at it, but you're a shard. You could just fashion one of these. Honor did. What went wrong with the heralds? Nothing went wrong.
The heralds are fine.
Why do you ask?
Oh,
Everything
gosh.
was fine.
I will say, if Harmony's looking for a person who can both protect and kill to protect, maybe he shouldn't be looking for a sword. Maybe he should be looking for a spear. I think he would get along well with Kaladin. Just like Windrunner oaths. That's exactly what you need for that person, right?
Yeah.
I definitely think that is a red herring Brandon is intending on people to make. I think he wants people to think he's talking about Kaladin here.
Yeah.
But I don't think it could be.
I don't think it's actually Kaladin.
Yeah.
I just think Kaladin would fit this bill if he was over on Scadrial.
Yeah. The interesting thing about this, too, the way we're talking about this, is if it's a person, is it almost sounds like someone who could also inherit the shard. Is we're like, oh, they'll be equally connected to rune and preservation, like all this stuff. Like that does sound like a proto vessel to me. Where you're like, oh, if we needed to hand this off to somebody,
that would be crazy.
Yeah, but he's not talking about inheritance here. He's talking about an agent.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with that. But there can be multiple benefits of doing this, and one of the way we're talking about this sounds to me like somebody who would also be a good candidate for the shard.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
Speaking of shards, I don't mean to cut this Harmony conversation because this is new Harmony lore. That's exciting because we still don't have Lost Metal, right? So I was like, oh my god, oh my Harmony. But what if we talk about the new shards and let's nerd out about these thrilling new shards. Let's start with Invention.
The worst of them. The other 4 3 and 10s are way cooler than Invention. Invention's like, all right, we kind of knew about it.
We just got to this topic and you're already throwing down gauntlets like that.
Well, you see, Alyx, we've had a few podcasts where we talk about ingenuity, paleo.
You guys have a podcast?
Yeah.
Every now and then.
Well, Brandon
I'm kidding.
slided the word maybe ingenuity, and then later in 2018 I asked about ingenuity and he just paused a long time and then said Rapho. Yeah. So I always
the maybe ingenuity was in terms of what shard would he hold.
So
wasn't the ingenuity thing didn't that come from an interview with the Bulgarian publisher or something?
No, it was at the Sophia signing.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
So I think Invention is, if Ingenuity was a shard, I think Invention is that same shard, and just Brandon just toyed with the name of it, right?
Yeah. I'm really glad he did, because I never liked Ingenuity.
No,
I liked that way more.
I liked it too.
It never sat right with me. I thought
but you're weird.
It was. Yeah, I know. Well, it was just kind of weird because I didn't like it because one of the things I thought was it felt too technical, too man-made. But then he's leaned into that harder, and I'm like, okay, Ingenuity to me felt like it could also have been a creativity kind of thing. But Invention is very specifically, this is about, coming up with solutions to problems using the tools available kind of thing. It is invention. It's inventing things. It is mechanical. It is technical. And I'm like, okay. Cool. It's clarified the ambiguity I think Ingenuity had, and so I much prefer Invention.
I do think it if there is also another hypothetical shard out there that is about wisdom, I think it more strongly delineates between the two than Ingenuity and Wisdom would have.
That's a good point.
Yes.
Yeah. If there is a Wisdom shard.
Yeah.
I find myself thinking go ahead.
My brain short-circuited for a moment. When you said ambiguity, Ben, and I was like, wait, ambiguity shard?
That would be a crazy shard. That's whimsy.
Oh,
Come
gosh.
on. I'm ambiguity. I don't know what's going on.
Or am I?
Maybe I am ambiguity.
The Invention shard definitely makes me think about Hoyd's little treatise about novelty, about what do men prize most or
value most.
Value most. Thank you. And it's doing something new for the first time. It's novelty is how he puts it. But I think that would also be a philosophy very in line with invention.
And so to get a more technical definition,
why not?
We went to Merriam-Webster.
Yep.
And so this is going to be a summary of of definitions, not intents, but also intents. So invention is something that was invented, not helpful.
Okay, thanks.
The act or process of inventing, which we'll get into the definition of inventing. And then productive imagination, which is interesting.
Interesting.
And then the definition of invent is to produce for the first time through the use of imagination or of ingenious thinking and experiment, or to devise by thinking.
Oh, you know what I just thought? You know, it'd be terrible if, like, invention was like creating a sword. He probably went through a ton of prototypes. that would not go well for the prototypes.
Feather, you probably might know this. What's the sword from the Final Fantasy VII Advent Children that Cloud has, which is like 11 swords? And it's like
played Final Fantasy, actually. We need Gray in here.
Oh, it's Gray the Final Fantasy. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, it reminds me of that sword where it's like a sword, but it's actually 11 swords, and the 11 swords all do different things, and it turns into one big sword that does other things. That seems like an invention kind of sword to me.
I love this shard intent because, like, Ada Nalcium's the shards are the aspects of divinity, right? And this idea of, like, intelligent design, well, there's the word design in it, right? So, like, this invention is like, yo, if I am going to create new life forms, let's just create some. What's up? And to do specific thing. And it's like that shard. And I like that. And also, like, engineering-iness, and it's great. I love it.
Yeah, I always go right to, like, you know, how would a person gain access to their magic system? And I'm like, do they have to? You have to invent something? Like, you have to be like,
you have to be Navani.
Like, does it help to invent? You know, it's like
kite magic system.
Well, we're gonna bring this up.
We're bringing kites up. Don't you worry.
As we dissect this intent, I'm reminded of a word of Brandon, which I'm being repeatedly reminded of on the Discord recently, where Brandon describes shardic intents as a combination of a natural force and some human aspect, right? So honor is the big quotes natural force of bonds and oaths and connectedness, but also the human aspect of, like, well, honor and goodness and, like, this kind of stuff.
Sure.
And so I'm trying to think what kind of natural force or, like, made up magical Brandon natural force would invention
sounds almost like evolution-y to me.
Evolution-y,
sort of, you know,
creation-y.
Almost creation.
But that's like cultivation-y too.
I was going to say, I could be
like,
treading on her toes.
Well, cultivation is change.
Growth.
Like direct growth. Yeah, directed change.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm thinking devotion and dominion, though, don't really have a natural, you know, kind of representative in the natural world. They are very much man-made things to, you know, to hold dominion and to hold division of something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those are very.
It's kind of control, though. At least dominion is
Dominion's kind of control,
like
ownership.
Yeah, and devotion is almost the opposite of that. The like giving up of agency.
I am reminded of Brandon's tour speech from I don't remember which tour, where he talked about creativity and how, like, when you shuffle a deck, the chances are it's a combination that has never existed in the history of the universe. So what if it's that new things always happen sort of thing?
That sounds terrifying to live on that world. New things every day on an invention planet.
I will say, of the new aspects that we just got, I think invention may be the one that would be like the scariest to me.
I disagree.
They're all scary for different reasons.
We'll see. But I mean, this is the planet that's going to get a nuclear bomb first. This is where your mad scientists are going to get power. And there's a lot of very inventive things that are very divorced from morality. When you think about like, you know,
if I was the main character of
experiment, like,
if I was the main character of a space opera that someone was writing, I would not want to be against the guys who have the shard of invention behind them.
Yeah, very much.
But we have a mad scientist character in Rhythm of War.
Yep, that's true. We do.
Well, how mad she is subject of debate.
That is true.
We have an evil scientist in Rhythm of War.
yes.
Okay.
So our mention of invention in the letter is, I know it rhymes, fun, that Harmony has not been able to locate invention again following initial contact.
So there was initial contact.
There was initial contact, but like a location's an issue, which is interesting.
We know that there is a shard that is not on a planet.
We do.
Aren't there a couple shards? See, I don't know all the nameless shards that we know like one fact about, and which ones could possibly be the same shard and which ones possibly can't be. But I thought there was like a dead one in space and there was like an alive one in space, but I could be wrong.
That sounds about right.
I don't.
I could be wrong with the dead one. It's definitely a shard.
There's one in space and there's the one who wants to hide and survive.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just like turning the silver light is where a dead shard is thing into my own mental canon. That's possible.
I don't think that's
possibly.
canon.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to be the god of like a people who live entirely on a huge fleet of spaceships, invention would probably be a good god to have.
Oh,
because you could
That
just keep
sounds
creating cool things.
Oh my god, that sounds incredible.
There you go. That's my theory for this.
That reminds me, because one of Brandon's nebulous works that will hopefully eventually be written is Adamant, which is takes place in space. The pitch is Silence of the Lambs, but in space, which he has mentioned possibly wanting to slip into the Cosmere.
I haven't heard about that in a while.
Yeah,
because he hasn't mentioned it in a very long time, and it makes me very sad.
Lore.
So it's like that would be interesting.
I wonder if invention might be connected to Silverlight. Now that it got mentioned, I don't know if Silverlight is particularly known for like inventing things, but they are a community of scholars. Well, they are a community of scholars plus more people around them.
There are scholars, many scholars there.
Like well-known Cosmere scholars are there, and maybe Frost. Who knows?
I'm pretty sure Frost is still on Yulin because he's not a world hopper.
Yeah.
Oh, true. That's a good point.
Fair. But regardless, like the point stands.
Yeah. No, that's totally. I think that's totally plausible. I'm curious why it would bother responding to Seize once and then choose not to, when the other ones seem to have either decided to like leave him on red or or be like, hey, what's up?
Well, that's like, how do the shards communicate in this way? Like, I think there's some information that we don't know that.
Yes. Because I don't think they communicate via letters.
Yeah.
Except there are letters.
The Silverlight Post Service. Come on.
Oh, like, could you just like do like
stories about that mailroom?
Like weird rhythms in the spiritual realm or some crap? I don't know.
You exist mostly in the spiritual realm, and so do they, and everywhere's the same place in the spiritual realm. I'm sure like there is an easy way to immediately speak like face to face with them.
I'm sure there's spiritual mumbo jumbo about how that can't work because
you can't. There's a wound in the spiritual realm.
Brennan, like that makes it too easy. Like, no, I can't let them do that.
Yeah,
like maybe invention doesn't want to be contacted.
Yep.
Yeah. I think the reason there are letters is because they're writing them to a person who is a person and not a shard.
Exactly.
That's what all these communications. I'm pretty sure if a shard was open to being communicated and not actively disguising itself from another shard, that they could probably make some sort of contact.
I tend to agree. Like, they have so much power. That should be possible, especially with the power of spiritual mumbo jumbo. Like,
That's limitless.
The ultimate
it's
power.
limitless. That's the most powerful shard of all.
I did wonder if maybe Sazed had made contact with Invention shortly after his ascension, maybe, and he was just because like he was reaching out into the Cosmere and he was trying to figure out how things are,
Right.
and like he got the name Adonalsium and Yolan and things like that, and so maybe that was the initial contact. And now that he's trying to talk to Invention about Odium, well, what if Invention is the shard that wants to hide and survive? And so says it's like, hey, can we talk about Odium? And Invention, nope.
I could see that, but my read of this letter is that all of these reach outs that Sazed has been doing are directly in response to Hoyd telling him you should talk to the other shards.
That's
So I don't. Yeah.
That was my initial read, but it's just an interesting line where it's Endowment at least responded to my overtures, though I have not been able to locate Invention again following our initial contact. I think there is room that initial contact wasn't, well...
They could have had an initial contact and then he tried to reach out again. That is plausible. But I think that most of these are Sazed reaching out on direct.
Yeah.
It could be something like Endowment helped Sazed find Invention the first time, but now
well, and
that could be the connection between the two.
And it does just say, I've reached out to the others and received a variety of responses. And so, like, so there's wiggle room for sure.
I just realized Endowment probably really likes Harmony because Endowment was really petty about people breaking the rules and having more than one shard on a world. It's like, cool, you fixed that problem. Let's be friends. Also, Invention has a fleet of spaceships, so we're also buddies because not.
I love that. I love that theory, Alex. I really like that because I don't know why, but for some reason in my brain, now that you have that stuck in my brain, I'm like, why would Invention just be located on a single planet when you could just not do that and just like build spaceships in... Like, you save that investiture and just build awesome Cosmere spaceships and just go around in world ships all the time.
Theory, Eric. Cognitive anomaly is the world ships in orbit around Nalthus' sun.
Boom! Well, that's possible,
all their minds create an anomaly right there.
Makes sense.
That's
there
good.
Go.
I like that.
There you go.
It's really out there, but I like that.
It's confirmed, I think.
In case you forgot, listeners, on the Nalthus star chart, there's a weird cognitive anomaly that is in Nalthus's ring around the planet, and we don't know what that means.
We never will. In the Nalthus space because Endowment and Invention are friends.
It's all coming together.
Endowment seems like a very sort of like petty, like I followed the rules, and if you didn't follow the rules, you're dead to me.
I totally agree.
I blocked you on Shard Twitter. You're on your own.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Considering how almost every other shard did pair up in some way, I'm kind of like that we know of.
Well, I wonder if
Division Dominion.
I wonder if these shards that are mentioned are just ones that were on their own place and like we're not gonna get their own world about it. So I just wonder how Brandon's gonna get them into things.
Brandon has said that most of the shards were alone. It just so happened like we visited all the places where there are multiple shards because that's where interesting things are happening.
And like Brandon said at a live stream, that's like, oh, you've seen most of like the impressive Cosmere magic, and it's like, Invention could have such cool magic.
So before we leave off to the next shard, there is one last thing I want to bring up about Invention, and that is the directed design aspect of it. Because whenever I think of Invention, I don't think of evolution, because evolution is not directed. Evolution is random, and it just happens that the best traits survive because they are randomly the best. Invention it's more engineering. It's you have a problem and you go, I will create a solution to this problem. Or you have an idea and you go, I want something to manifest that idea.
Yeah, I agree. It's the shard of engineering.
Yeah, no, the evolution was just me trying to fit that into your more natural. You're like, it has like a human side and a natural side. I don't think it particularly is similar.
Yeah, but I think invention and cultivation would be the best at looking to the future and the best at planning.
True. I wonder if invention is also good at seeing the future.
That'd be a good dual shard.
What if all of invention's problems, invention like sees a problem and is like, what if I can build a world ship to solve this? A giant spaceship. How can I have giant spaceships be the solution to this problem?
real one-track mind, you know.
Yes. The vessel's very one-track.
Leaving the giant spaceships. I wonder, like, imagine if invention had a world, right? And everything in that world has like this incredibly specific purpose, and like all the creatures and all the people there are designed for one, and it's like this massive, almost like a clockwork machine.
Yeah,
where
that sounds awesome.
Everyone knows what their purpose is. Everyone goes about their, and so it's almost dystopian in the way that I think of it. It doesn't need to be, because like you're not deviating from your purpose because there's no reason for you to deviate from your purpose. Like you were already doing the most optimal thing for you.
Westworld season 3. Yeah. Spoilers.
That sounds so cool.
I will get it, but the idea of a clockwork planet is extremely
really cool. That sounds really cool. Yeah. We don't have enough books for all these shards, Brandon, but I have faith that he knows how these 16 things would fit it together, because if he didn't need 16, he wouldn't have made them be 16 of them.
Yeah, 16 is a lot.
16 is a lot.
I expect to see at least like 3 or 4 primarily through that Space Age trilogy, where we're just like, oh, here's the culture from this planet, and they've got this shard, and like, you know, you can do the whole clockwork planet, and you don't need to set a series on there. They can just be like, oh, these guys are cool.
Yeah, you know? We visited this place, and that place is crazy. That's awesome.
Or everybody thinks it's terrifying.
Or everyone thinks it's terrifying. It's like, woo, you have no freedom to do anything.
They have entirely converted their original planet into spaceships. And are now flying.
But like, it could be like advanced cyberpunk world. Like if you can't get a cyberpunk era on Scadrial, just have invention have a cyberpunk planet. Because it's like, there's humans, but it's like they're all like cyborgs. You know, whatever.
They love it.
The planet most likely to have sentient Cosmere robots.
Avoid working with invention to push the instant noodles to Scadrial quicker.
Top theory. We have
Forget about Odium.
Forget about Odium.
That's what the red mist is just invention trying to get the idea of instant noodles.
And Harmony's like, no,
noodles.
This cannot be allowed.
They have to figure it out on their own.
Oh my god.
That's actually, I mean, obviously we joke, but that puts Harmony and invention in a really fascinating conflict, where Harmony is trying to be like very hands-off, let the people do their own thing, and invention might be the kind of shard who's like, I know best.
That might be why invention, they made initial contact, and invention's like, nope, we are not going to get along. This guy, I do not like him. Nope, I'm out.
They're moving the world ships over to Scadrial.
Yeah, but that's actually a really interesting juxtaposition, because you could have invention, whatever society they build, be like some sort of antagonist in Space Age Cosmere, right? To Scadrians, if we're in Scadrian point of view.
Okay. Invention people being the ones that are trying to raise up the Six of Dusk people, while Harmony Aligned people are the ones going.
Ooh, that's good.
You know, like we've got our Star Trek, like, you know, I forgot the actual term for that because I'm not a Star Trek fan.
Prime Directive.
There it is.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. I've never liked the ones above are Scadrians theory, because I hate it.
They brought Chowda. They're clearly a mix of cultures.
I really got to read Six of Dusk sometime.
It's so good, Alyx. Eric recommends
I know. I just haven't finished it.
So, invention's cool. I do think the least interesting of the 4 shards that I want to talk about, to be honest. I'm so excited to talk about Whimsy, and the only reference we get is Whimsy was not terribly useful. That's what Harmony says.
So the definition of whimsy is the quality or state of being whimsical.
Hey, okay.
Unhelpful
Excellent.
definition. So, what is
How appropriate.
whimsical? Subject to erratic behavior or unpredictable change, or resulting from or characterized by whim or caprice.
Oh, good.
Again, unhelpful. So, what is a whim? Which is
We're going deep in Shardcast. This is the Shardcast episode where it's like we're reading definitions. What is this? Well, now you'll know.
Yeah, it's like I was searching for these definitions. This was the one where it's like, okay, but I need more information. Search for a new word. But the definition
We
of
need to go
whim
deeper.
is a capricious or eccentric and often sudden idea or turn of the mind.
Yeah.
So this to me is the most terrifying sounding shard.
Absolutely. But you do not want to be on the whimsy planet where the shard's like, yeah, so your city is cool and all, but what if we just did this instead? And then we just remade it all. And it's like, oh,
It's
okay,
just like-
yeah, now we're here.
You just wake up every day and there's something different. You wake up and like it's raining cats and dogs, or the next day you just don't have legs. Like it's
Damn.
Yeah.
The rules just don't
Eldritch
make sense.
horror shard.
yes.
It's just like, I just
In some ways,
feel things should be different because I feel they should. What's up? What are you gonna do about it?
Yeah. But like in terms of like aspects of divinity,
yeah.
I think this is playing off of like trickster god.
Yeah.
Where it's like trickster gods, it's like it's all fun and games until they swap your insides and your outsides to see what will happen. And
Yeah.
it's not good.
Yeah, Whimsy would just literally like remake whatever they want because they thought it would be funny.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yep.
really interesting to me that you guys are all like, invention is super cool and amazing. And I'm like, invention scares me. And then you guys are all like super afraid of whimsy. And for me, like the term whimsy invokes like joy and happiness and playfulness. And I mean, I think I would probably fall in line with Sazed. Like, it just doesn't sound useful. I don't think it sounds bad. Just probably
Well,
not going to be a lot of help.
I think most of the time it is this like sparking joy and all of that. But there is the potential that this could go very bad very
Yeah.
quickly.
Whimsy, like to me, and like that aspects of divinity, it's like almost like a childlike like sense of
Mhm.
wonder almost.
Yeah.
A little bit. Which I just love that this is this aspect of divinity because it's like we have so many serious ones, and so like having
Yeah.
one that is
Having
not
one-
serious is great.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was hoping for kind of an out there shard, you know, and not like duty or like something kind of staid. It's pretty exciting.
Like it goes into the idea of like, and like these are all theoretically good things, the intents, like
Mhm.
when they're all together.
Mhm.
But
Right.
anyone on their own like can be good or it can be bad.
I don't know if I agree with the premise of this.
How so?
I don't think the combination of the 16th shards is necessarily good.
Well,
Just
they come
divine.
together to become a complete whole. Is
Yeah,
more what I
okay.
meant.
It's the context, like going back to Frost's letter, right? Like
Mhm.
divine hatred separated from the context. And so like whimsy alone, maybe we just don't like ramp whimsy up to 100%. It's like, that's a
Yeah,
lot
it's
of
like-
whimsy.
The reason I find it scary is like you have the divine whimsy is kind of when you look at like gods that were created in mythology, or like 'cause that's kind of what these represent, is these divine attributes humans create. And so like the gods you assume are like the ones that are the whimsical ones are there to explain random stuff that just happens in your life. You know, it's like,
Oh, that's true.
my house got blew down in a thing, and it's like, oh, that's the god of whimsy. Just blew your house
Yeah.
down on a whim.
'Cause humans don't
That's
understand
why it
random.
scares me. Yeah, because whimsy's there to the divine whimsy is there to explain random stuff that happens in your life that you can't control, and that is scary to me.
Ancient gods are notoriously capricious. That is one of the words that we heard a few times in the description.
Yeah, capricious is not a good thing.
Yeah. So I think you put it best. It's doing stuff because it sounds fun at the very moment. And what sounds fun today might not sound fun tomorrow. Or it might. Who knows?
I could definitely see this as being a planet that and a shard that tries to cultivate like a childlike wonder and doesn't really think about like responsibility very much. Like this is the Dead Poet Society shard that is just telling you to carpe diem and live your dreams and go write poetry.
Live your best life.
Probably not going to make super successful societies overall. But yeah.
I think Brandon's talked about this world where there's kite magic and that it is Cosmere. Whimsy, great candidate for that. I don't know what the kites are going to be involved with, but I want Invention to be like this super cyberpunk place, and so I don't want kites. That's silly. So
like I would have loved a world with Invention and Whimsy together.
Oh my god. Well, they could be. They could be. That's the thing. They could be.
Yeah.
But
or to them to have been like siblings, like the vessels to be siblings.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Oh my god.
It's kind of like a shut up.
Yeah.
Shut up. Yeah.
I had a theory that maybe the vessel of Whimsy is maybe a child of one of the other 16 the other vessels, and so like they ascended like as they're like no more than 13 years old.
A child vessel would be interesting.
Yeah,
it would be. I feel like I'm strongly opposed to the concept of the original vessels going to destroy their god, and somebody brings their like. This is not take a child to work day.
Probably not. But there had to have been Hoyd was supposed to take one, and if they knew they were going to be 16, maybe something did not go quite according to plan.
Well, we don't know when he refused. He might have refused like early in the planning process, so they could adapt.
But just saying, we know that it's the town situation. Somebody tapped in and
just thinking the town situation.
This didn't go according to plan. I'm just gonna assume that killing God didn't go according to whatever their plan was.
I mean, you guys thought of the Talon situation. I thought of the how old was Ash when the Honor Pact started question.
And the Oath Pact, yeah.
Sorry. Pact, Honor Pact. I'm getting kicked off Shardcast.
Same deaf.
Look, you're not as bad as Ben and Lucy.
You can attach the word honor or oath to any
King
other noun
Idris,
in your
Ben.
set.
King Idris. That's a name.
I think Whimsy is one of the shards where the vessel would have the most influence over the shard. Because like a good person taking up Whimsy, I think would turn out closer to what Feather is thinking. A more like neutral or not evil, so good person, it would be bad.
Yeah.
That seems like it definitely depend on the vessel.
I just wonder if the Whimsy Society is just like a dead planet. Like Whimsy tried and it just completely failed.
The Dead Whimsy Society?
The Dead Whimsy Society.
Like it just burned down. We tried.
We kept trying to make civilization and it just didn't work. I wonder why. Maybe because I change things every day. I don't know.
Or this could be the shard that's not on a planet because they keep traveling the Cosmere to see new things. They don't.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Don't want to settle down.
Single planet's not interesting enough.
Ooh, that's true though, because they would want to explore and just like, no, I don't want to be locked to a place. That's a really good point.
I like that.
I have some thoughts. So when I first read this, I was immediately drawn to the Mad Hatter personality. Like that like Whimsy sounds like a Mad Hatter to me. And then somebody brought up a character from the Skyrim games.
Oh my god.
Sheogorath?
Sheogorath.
I want to say which is also very much a Mad Hatter type of thing. Like he's a god or a godling or somebody with power, and he's got his
Daedric
own
Prince,
pocket.
I think is the term.
Of madness, I want to say.
Yeah, and he's got his own pocket dimension, and like things change all the time, and like reality itself is not stable in there. Some sections are fantastic and beautiful, and some are just horrific and infernal flames and all that.
He gives you a weapon which you point at things and it can turn anything into anything else, just so anything else in the game
transforms them. Yeah,
Okay.
like these are interesting personalities I can see as whimsy.
So your I can never say his name, Shigarath, whatever. Like his mentioning that kind of made me think, because if I remember rightly, he was like a deity of order before and turned into like the crazy thing, and so that makes me think honor and whimsy not getting along, not like between someone who's like who's like I'm all about my word and someone who's like I am whimsy.
I change my word every day.
Like if there's an opposite to honor out there, that's more compelling than Odium to me. Like
going off of Eric's theory that this is the child of one of the other shards, one of the only couples we know of is cultivation and honor.
Oh boy.
Oh no.
Oh no.
What if this is their kid?
they're like, we're just gonna let them do what they want. We don't need to come to Rishar.
It might not be one of the vessel's kids, but a much younger vessel that is maybe childlike. Like I really like that theory.
What just Brandon completely throws this out and it's some old dude just like crouching.
Imagine the shattering, and like they have somebody, like they have the 16 that they planned for, and they break Adenalsium, and there's this kid who's the village trickster or whatever, prankster, who's been following the original vessels because they're interesting and like has been hiding in the rocks.
Why does this
or whatever.
sound like Home Alone? You know that kid that they miscount in Home Alone?
Oh no.
Yeah, and like a chunk of divine power just drops, and the kid's like, "Oh, what's this?"
And they're like, "You need to go."
It does seem like it would have been a good shard for Hoyd if Hoyd had to pick up a shard.
Kinda.
Like, maybe that was the one that got left over.
He wanted endowment, but
he definitely strikes me as a whimsy kind of guy. Definitely.
Yeah. Trickster God, yeah.
Trickster.
Yeah.
I do want to point out that I think this would be like our second shard child, because we know that invention has to be the child of necessity, which has to. Okay, sorry.
I literally made that joke earlier.
Necessity is the mother of invent. Okay,
I almost did that, Alyx. Defense. No boo. That was
somebody had to. Somebody had to.
Oh my god.
If there's not a ship in Era 4 called the Mother of Invention, I'm like,
These are great names for shard ships.
No, when we get Dragonsteel, which is the backstory, and we see the person who will become Invention, we have to meet their mother.
Yep. Yeah. Seriously, if we don't, oh man, Brandon. It's like, no, we need to know what their mother is. The mother of Invention. Please.
Brandon does leave out mothers a lot, unfortunately.
Yeah,
he does.
Slowly getting better.
Even when they're alive.
I had one last thought on Whimsy. Probably has the worst future sight of all the shards.
I'm gonna go with probably that.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
And I don't think they care.
Yeah,
I don't think they care. Yeah, they don't care about the future. Every day is a new day. Why predict the future? I don't know what's going to happen the next day. It'll be whatever I want it to be.
I actually just had the thought of like, oh, well, what if one of the unknown shards is like historical preservation? And then I realized one of our shards is preservation, but preservation was actually pretty good at seeing the future. Why is that? That's weird. Shouldn't preservation be bad at it? Anyway, weird train of thought.
So do we think, is Whimsy out in space, traveling the Cosmere, not investing on a particular planet? What do we think?
Strong possibility.
Yeah.
I think I like that better than invention, but part of me, for the rest of the podcast, wants to connect every shard to somehow be in space, like, just to annoy listeners. But
the shards in space.
Because like invention could totally be on a planet, but like the not being able to locate is weird. But I guess invention could just be like, I don't want to be contacted by you because we're not going to get along.
No soliciting.
No soliciting. No shard soliciting. Shall we move on to Mercy?
Oh,
yes.
Hmm.
What I consider the least interesting, and so I'm probably not going to say very much.
Let's just say what Harmony said real quick. So it was Whimsy was not terribly useful, and Mercy worries me. And then later we have that there's the wound upon the spiritual realm where Ambition, Mercy, and Odium clashed, and Ambition was destroyed. The effects on the planet Threnody have been disturbing. Is Mercy on Purity? Whoa. In the Threnody system.
See, I want to know why they weren't in the Threnody essay. I want that fight to make sense in such a way that they didn't necessarily need to be mentioned. Because the Ambition Odium thing was like, but it's probably just because the Ambition's body like was the thing that messed everything up. But
that's the thing is, I went back and read the essay, and from my perspective, that essay could still make sense if they only know what happened in retrospect, because Ambition's body's strewn about the place, and so they're like, oh, okay, Ambition died here, and it was probably Odium, and Mercy just
safe bet.
Yeah.
I want to say that there is a word of Brandon about how by the time Chris wrote the essays, she does know all of the shards. I'm just going to do a quick search for that.
Yeah, she knows the names.
Interesting. My first thought in this was that this was like an Evie Colon situation. Like Mercy went into this clash not as a fighter, but like to try to get the fight to stop and got caught up in it anyway.
Whoa.
Because that would be in line with the intent of like trying to get Odium and Ambition not to kill each other or to have one spare the other. And it didn't go.
And then like
right.
when they start attacking, then they fight back.
Right.
That was my read as well.
Yeah, and I mean there are pieces of the fight that we don't have context for, because we know that Ambition didn't even die on Threnody, so clearly there was more going on and more after. But yeah, just something that stood out where I was kind of like, huh.
I did find the WAP, and it was she knows each of the intents, the names.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like she might not know all of their actions.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
Do we want the definition of mercy?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Yes.
What is mercy?
Compassion or forbearance shown especially to an offender or to one subject to one's power. A blessing that is an act of divine favor or compassion. A fortunate circumstance, or compassionate treatment of those in distress.
Okay. So, given that, why is Sazed afraid or worried about mercy? When that sounds real nice. Because I have one idea, but...
I was going to say, it seems almost to me, when I say, given the context of this letter being that he's trying to find alliances to build to go against Odium,
right?
Mercy worrying him kind of implies to me that Mercy may potentially be siding with Odium, especially since they're at very early on in the letter, Sazed said that there is a division between the shards that surprises him, and so it could almost be like maybe Mercy sees what Odium is doing as a mercy.
Yeah,
and kind of agree with him.
The way I was looking at it is more like I could see Mercy being driven to show mercy to Odium, and perhaps being someone where they're like, we can't rely on this person to pull the trigger, and we're trying to take Odium out. Like they might not be motivated enough.
Which would make sense. Like if Mercy is like, well, Odium has been imprisoned on Roshar for such a long period of time, maybe it's time to be lenient to him. Merciful.
Right.
Another fun thought is that mercy is not pacifism. Someone who's merciful could fight, but they would spare you after you've been defeated. But the other thing is, we have this phrase to have someone at your mercy, which would be where you have control and power over them, and you get to make the final decision about what happens, which could be a very scary sort of
that's highly vessel dependent on that one for Mercy.
Yeah. So
mercy
there are
definitely implies power to me. Like you can't show mercy unless you are in a position to show mercy.
Oh yeah.
Ian.
So I think there are actually two potential theoretical shards that mercy fulfills.
Okay.
One is the shard that only wants to hide and survive, but has recently found that that is not feasible. Which, like, that might be like she wanted to stay out because didn't want to deal with the conflict, but now she's like, oh, Odium is going to win. Like, I need to make sure this is all as merciful as possible. And the second one is the anguish / sorrow / whatever shard that was proposed recently. And Brendan was like, hey, you should post this.
That was an interesting theory.
Also, it's interesting that you went feminine pronouns for Mercy.
That is true.
It would be interesting if Mercy's vessel was
male.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always go right to Overwatch with it.
Yeah.
I have to not think about it like that. And I'm like, okay, no, it could be anybody.
Yeah. There's also Mercy is a name that people have.
Yeah.
There's a name, yeah.
I'm almost thinking about Mercy worrying Harmony. Like it's interesting because he says Mercy worries me. Then like 2 chapters later, he's like, that said, the most worrying thing I discovered was the spiritual realm wound. And I just wonder if like Mercy was maybe wounded in some way that like also worries Harmony, maybe? I don't know.
That he's worried for them.
That's how I initially read the Mercy worries me, like Harmony being worried for Mercy. Maybe for whatever reason, the vessel or the shard is getting worse.
Similar to how Honor went crazy near the end.
Yeah. Yeah. The concept of how a shard can be damaged is interesting.
Yeah.
Super interesting.
I wouldn't have used worse. Like in my head, in my weird made up headcanon scenario world, I'm imagining a shard or a vessel that's like, I guess I'm maybe conflating this with sorrow a little bit, but I'm imagining a vessel that's like pulling away and like shutting off and like just not communicate. Like,
I am depression, the shard.
Yeah, I think what we know of Sazed, he would probably, if he saw someone who was, hurting and in a bad place, I think he might be the kind of person who could use the like, oh, this person worries me. Because they're in such a traumatic state.
That makes sense.
Could be so many things.
There's a lot on Mercy. I like the idea that maybe Mercy's like, wow, these shard conflicts are real dumb. I could do a lot better job. But yet, still Harmony at the end of the day, Odium is the worst. It's like, Mercy worries me, but Odium's worse. He's like actively has killed them. And Mercy, that could be a long-term problem. Odium's the big problem right now. I don't know if I like Mercy being the one who wants to hide and survive. I don't know. Something about that just like, I don't know. But like, it would kind of make sense if they clashed with Odium. It was like, yeah, I'm out. Screw this.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I guess maybe. It doesn't seem to me like something that someone who's driven by an intent of Mercy would do. It feels like a non-action so much more than doing something.
That's why it sits so weirdly with me. Or I don't quite know how to interpret Mercy, a person like being controlled by the power of Mercy. I find that so hard to imagine what that looks like.
It's super interesting. It's kind of like honor. Like honor's like we know what honor means, but like honor's kind of hard. Like, what is a shard like that? What does that mean? Or like a shard of autonomy. What does that mean? I have no idea what that means. Right?
Yeah, that's another one.
That one's still weird, right? And so Mercy is kind of like that. Like, what does that mean?
Being in hindsight, like going from honor to like being bound by honor or honor bound. Like,
yeah,
obviously honor would be the shard of bonds.
Yeah, that makes sense. Totally.
Also, yeah. So I'm trying to think of like any similar phrase that we can apply to mercy that we can riff off of.
Whole Cosmere's at their mercy.
It's just
Not
so like
necessarily that one.
context. Yeah. It's so context specific. Like people show acts of mercy in a lot of different ways. And it's honor's a little more straightforward than that. At least the way that it is displayed in this series.
It's so vessel dependent, I think, because if someone like wants to control stuff, I think they could use mercy to rationalize that. And like maybe they are you have your society and you're the ruler of it, but maybe you're a pretty good divine ultimate ruler of it. It's not like all terrible. Like you're not going to be the Lord Ruler and just execute a bunch of people. It's like, oh, okay, that's fine. And maybe just like thinking, look, I don't like these other shards. You other shards are big meanie heads, and you're doing awful things.
Yeah. You could like come to the conclusion that the most merciful action for the people of the Cosmere is that there aren't shards anymore. Like that's the sort of thing you could really.
Yeah.
That's
you can spin it off that way.
Yeah. Huh.
Ooh.
I know that's not what you said, David, but for some reason that like clicked for me that maybe that does make more sense for hiding and surviving, right? It's like, look, the most merciful thing I can do is not screw with people, right?
Not do anything.
Yeah.
Okay, I could see it from that context for sure.
But it could also be they interacted with Odium in some way, and they were like, "Oh, I couldn't." Like maybe Mercy went to like try to hold Odium back, or even help him. Like if we go with maybe the most merciful thing is to not have any shards. Maybe Mercy wants to help Odium like break all the shards, and he's like, well, I'll just deal with him at the end.
Mission was going to be a problem.
In my head, maybe they saw what happened to Threnody and the people of Threnody from that conflict, and we're like, maybe the most merciful thing is if we peace out,
Yeah,
because that'd be plenty to shake you a little bit.
Yeah.
Speaking of Threnody, we said about sayings which have mercy in them, and I just had the phrase "May God have mercy on our souls," and it just came to mind. And I'm wondering what happened to Threnody is God took mercy on their souls and stopped them from like moving on. And that wound is a chunk of mercy got left behind or something, and that's why they have shades, because they can't move on because mercy's not letting them, because I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
If the spiritual realm is wounded, you wouldn't want people to go there. It could be really bad for them.
Yeah.
Maybe they're stuck as a way to like protect them from whatever that
the
wound
beyond
is.
isn't the spiritual realm.
But you got to like pass through it.
Well, you got to go through the cognitive.
I don't know.
And so if as shades,
I'm allergic to the spiritual realm. What am I talking about?
Yeah.
But, like,
I know. Yeah.
We know that ambition's investiture is having an effect on Threnody, and like Chris doesn't mention like Mercy's investiture.
Yeah, that's the
cool.
thing that I'm like trying to figure out with that.
The wound on the spiritual realm thing, I could probably talk about forever. But
yeah, I know.
It really makes me.
Yeah.
It really like that seems like that must be like in my head that is probably tied pretty strongly to the shades behaving how they are and kind of being able to spontaneously like that, plus the weird spiritual corpse thing we understand to exist in the spiritual realm for a period of time. I'm like that all seems to tie together for me.
And I think spiritual wound just has to come from the wounding of ambition.
The fight was on all three realms, right? So right, like it makes sense that there could be such a thing. It's terrifying. I'm worried with you, Harmony. That is terrifying.
Well, the spiritual realm has always been wounded, though, because all times are one. So everything must be. It can't be that bad.
It will have always been wounded.
Actually, so now that we are talking a little bit more about Threnody and a little bit less about Mercy, I guess I've never really thought about this, but the fact that there are cognitive shadows that can interfere in such a major way with the physical realm without having bodies
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, Harmony, that is disturbing.
Him saying that it's disturbing, I'm like, out of all of the horrible things we have in the Cosmere, Brandon has called what happened on Threnody the evil. Like, nothing else is called the evil. The Lord Ruler wasn't called the evil. Something real bad has happened. Like, real bad.
Yeah, like, Sazin might not be talking about the Shades at all. Like, we have no idea what's going on in the homeland.
Write that book, Brandon. We're
Mercy
waiting.
comes back and be like, well, this place is screwed. The most merciful thing is we kill you all. That's a possible.
That is true. People think of euthanasia as merciful in cases.
Yes.
I was also thinking another worrisome Mercy thing. What if Mercy was in this clash and held Ambition back? What if Ambition had like the killing blow on Odium and Mercy stopped it?
It's like,
And now people are worried like we could have fixed this and Odium could have been dead and Mercy stood in the way and didn't let it happen.
And that let Odium kind of recover.
And like Odium was, and Ambition was wounded, and then Odium's later like, yo, you're done.
Yeah. Something. I don't know.
I like the idea that somehow Mercy's the evil on Threnody.
Like, I don't think that is what's going on.
I don't know, but like,
I think the evil is definitely related to Ambition's investiture. Like, doing, because like Mercy is not currently on Threnody, but the evil is.
Yeah.
Granted, the evil could be an avatar of Mercy.
Yeah.
I guess. It seems he's been like more cognitive. I feel like it's probably something weird, like Uli Daw's cognitive shadow or something strange.
Well, I guess where I was going with this is like maybe Mercy feels that becoming a cognitive shadow is just like wrong and it's like making that person suffer in some way. And it's like, no, I have to destroy them all. It's like, this is not a good, we screwed that up. We got to fix this.
This shot is so vessel dependent. It's so
really vessel dependent.
Like,
an evil person with Mercy is scary.
It's a very Odium definition of mercy, right? Because he also sees what he was doing to Dalinar as a mercy.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Valor. Oh my god.
I'm sure.
Shockingly, we've been blabbing a lot. I know, it's crazy.
Yeah, that's
so
big things.
4 shards!
4 shots!
4
like,
shards!
This is not going to be the only time we talk about these things.
No. We're going to bring them up all we can.
Shardcast is literal this week.
Shardcast. We got a whole quarter 8 in Alcium. Okay? Quarter 8 in Alcium here. All right. Harmony says, I do think Valor is reasonable and suggests you approach her again. Female vessel. Very interesting. It has been too long in her estimation since your last conversation. So what's the definition of valor, Ian?
So valor is defined as by Merriam-Webster.com as strength of mind or spirit that enables a person to encounter danger with firmness. Personal bravery.
Yeah. I don't know what all your first impressions were, but for a minute I read valor and I was like, isn't that similar to honor? But then like thinking about it, they are different. It's just in my brain like, oh, a good soldier would be like have valor, have honor, like they're like used together but are not the same thing. So like valor is more like courage almost.
Yeah, they feel I'm with you. They feel extremely similar but different enough, but still similar.
Honor cares about keeping their word. Valor, so honor is more like high spread. Valor is more like an honor spread. Right? Yeah, which is amusing. But like, you have to do the courageous thing, right? Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
No, I disagree with that.
Okay.
To me, honor is closer to doing the right thing, sans all the like fanatical bondage stuff.
Except all the bad stuff that we ignore.
Valor to me is about persevering and winning.
Yeah.
Like overcoming a challenge.
Yeah.
And like if overcoming a challenge involves just demolishing the thing that is in your way, that is the valorous thing to do.
It's like
Yeah,
countering danger with firmness, not backing down.
Yeah.
Like Valor could definitely break it. Like I feel like Valor, aside from the restrictions shards themselves have, like, you know, honor couldn't tell a lie. Valor would be willing to do a little more. Like that's very separate from my mind from the honor being the soul of making and keeping agreements is how it is in my head.
Right. Yep, I agree.
I think about sort of like honor has a lot to do with like how you're treating others and the way that you interact with the people around you, especially like your enemies. Whereas valor seems to be more, how are you in control of yourself and pushing yourself to do things you don't want to, even whether I didn't explain that well. Those sound really similar when I said them out loud.
Yeah, like there's
one is more of an
definitely
internal thing. I don't know. Yeah.
It's the
that like bravery aspect.
The bravery,
really
courage
part of honor
is like that's what I need in my brain to remember. Valor is very different from honor.
Yeah. But I do think like these two shards, if they were held by the same person, would combine much more effectively than a lot of others would.
I agree.
Probably get some kind of soldier type.
Valor, like the thrill, but maybe not bad.
Yeah. That's where Kaladin's heading. He'll hold the dual shard.
the honor valor.
Yeah, no, kind of like the thrill, but not bad is, I think, a reasonable.
Yeah, because like, valor does tie in with the Dustbringers. With one of their divine attributes is brave.
Yeah,
and then with the Stone Wards, that they stand, they fight the unwinnable battles.
It's a good thing to have. As long as your cause is moral. If it's not so much, then it's real bad.
Also, there are sometimes when it's wise to back down from a fight.
That's true.
You know, that whole pick your battles. If you are someone who doesn't pick your battles, picks all of the battles.
So valor is, if there's a shard like wisdom, valor is definitely not it at all.
Also not the shard who wants to hide and survive.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I don't think even in space either. I don't think Valor's just in space and not on a planet.
I almost wonder, like, has Valor, like, clashed with Odium before? And if not, why not? Wouldn't this be, like, the shard to go pick a fight against the evil that threatens us all, you think?
Yeah.
That's a good point.
I wonder if there is something about, like, Odium's deal with honor that is trapping Odium, that is preventing the other shards from going after Odium as well.
Alternatively, Valor could be handling a different problem entirely. You know, like it's possible there's another shard out there that Valor's like, oh, I'm sorry, I was busy with the shard of evil. I'll be right there. And
like, Harmony thinks Valor is reasonable. And so, like, could be an ally against Odium. Like, maybe Odium's just not stupid enough to go fight Valor, because Valor's like, I will fight to the death. Do not screw with me. And Odium's like, okay, let's not go that first. That sounds like a bad idea.
Yeah.
To
me, so the gamers in the audience who are familiar with the Diablo franchise, to me, honor is very much Tyrael, and valor is very much Imperious.
Those are words.
Yep.
Those are words.
Thanks, Argent.
I guess for those of you who are not familiar with that, Tyrael is essentially the good guy archangel. He's the archangel of justice. Very much about doing the right thing. And Imperious is the rush into the fight and slay the enemy.
Right.
Just brash, absolutely courageous, but also not really, like, in a line of soldiers, Valor would run ahead of everyone else to go fight the enemy and break formation.
It'd be Merry and Pippin in the last scene of Lord of the Rings, ahead of all the soldiers.
It's almost interesting, like, Valor on a planet, because you'd almost expect Valor to, like, go find conflict among the shards, but maybe like, why would Valor go with the deal, you know, to like stay separate almost?
They could sit on our planet by themselves and just make everyone fight each other all the time just for the
Gladiator planet.
Yeah, like just for the sake of Valor. Yeah.
I mean, it's so... I feel like part of the reason why we're getting so mixed up with honor is because there's so many like valorous aspects, especially of like a Lethe culture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When you think of like their whole religion is about training to fight wars in the afterlife, and like they're constantly like fighting amongst themselves to see who's the strong. Like
bravery is important to them.
Sort of culture that I would expect from a Valor shard.
Yeah,
but
it's and even like the knights themselves, like are. If I didn't know honor had to do with the Knights Radiant, like I probably would have slotted Valor in there as well.
Yeah.
Which, has anybody seen the movie Dragonheart?
Yes.
That has it has a dragon that is voiced by Sean Connery. It's a very good movie.
That's a good pitch. Dragon voiced by Sean Connery. All right, I'm kind of into this.
But there's just a scene where, like, because there's a knight character who is a dragon slayer, and then there is the last dragon, and they run a con on villages where like the dragon slayer kills the dragon. And the dragon dies by falling into a river and then swimming away. But in this, the knight is very disillusioned. But there's a scene where it's like the knight kind of rededicates himself, and there's this vow, and it's like, and it starts with like, a knight is sworn to valor. And it's just like that was what was running through my head when thinking about valor.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that like, we're not getting a book series on Valor, so clearly Brandon feels like thematically he can touch on that plenty in Stormlight, I would assume, you know?
Yeah.
But
book 6, Valor shows up.
Unless it's on the Aether planet. Yeah.
Well, I mean, what is he going to do with Aether, right? Like,
who knows? Yeah. What I find really interesting is just how, you know, we see who Hoyd reached out to previously. Like, you know, he went to Endowment, he went to Harmony, he went to Autonomy. But he did... From this context, I would assume that he did not send a similar letter to Valor, and I'm wondering if he's got some sort of beef with her or what's going on.
It sounded like a personal falling out may have happened.
They used to date.
and That's possible, though.
I mean, yeah, but Harmony says it's been too long since your last meeting. In her estimate, like this is. I don't think these are the words of somebody who's had a falling out with Hoyd. I think these are the words of somebody who Hoyd has ignored for a long time.
Valor,
not somebody who wants to remain. Yeah,
why?
But not somebody who wants to continue being ignored.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Like maybe Hoyd finds her too brash, too quick to action, too dangerous.
People to go after Odium. Like, why is Valor not on top of your list?
Yeah, why is Valor not?
That's a really good point. There's some stuff there. Yeah.
Yeah, like even to just run at him in like a suicide kamikaze run. Like we know he's already injured. Like why not just
Hoyd's
point Valor
burning
at
the entire
Honor
world down, right? To kill Odium, right? Hoyd's down for that.
I was just gonna make that argument. Maybe involving Valor also means involving collateral damage.
Ooh, yeah. There's something that's been in the back of my mind is the potential that whilst honor is all about the ends don't always justify the means, maybe Valor is the ends do justify the means. I will do everything I can to achieve my goals. Yep. And it's not journey for destination. It's about the destination, and the journey is like something to be powered through. And so that's kind of potentially a core difference between those philosophies.
Okay.
I believe that.
There's also maybe the idea, which I don't know if this works at all realmatically, but you kind of think like the whole Knights Radiant magic system is a little bit untethered from a shard because honor is gone. And like, what if Hoyd is worried somehow that Valor could come in and like take it over, and then like all of a sudden the whole Knight's Radiant system is under Valor.
I think
that's it.
She could definitely corrupt it
to
be under her.
Yeah.
And like maybe that's a worrisome outcome for Hoyd.
I don't know if that works like that dramatically.
I just don't know.
Probably not.
I just don't know why Hoyd wouldn't care if Valor is just like, look, strike Odium. Let's get rid of this. Problem solved. Like, why not?
Unless Hoyd knows Valor would go all out against Odium and would be willing to die doing so, but he doesn't want her to die. Like, he wants to protect
carrying her. Okay, all right. That sounds most plausible.
Ooh, what if Valor is a child? And
oh, I don't want that.
This is the child soldier book now. Oh no.
All the children are soldiers. On my planet, I am Valor. What's up?
Oof.
I do like that wherever planet she's on, there's definitely Valkyries on that planet. You know, there's definitely a...
Yeah, definitely Nordic vibes.
Yeah.
See, I'm still stuck just thinking, like, how are these shards going to help? Like, you know, like, what is that? And, like, that question has obviously been a long-standing question because Hoyd's been asking for help for a while. But, you know, Seize's not going to pick up root and come to Rashar between this and Era 3 and then pop back.
Like, actually, how will they actually help? Right.
Yeah, you know, like what can they do?
Yeah, good point.
Because he's still enlisting help. He's not trusting the Rasharans to handle this. He's obviously like got his finger in the pot and like, you know, is working with Yasna and doing stuff, but he's not putting all his eggs in the Rasharan basket.
No, he's not.
Yeah.
I think he worries that like Odium will get free and then what the hell happens, right?
Yeah.
You know?
Like right now this is a problem where we can do something about it now. Let's do something about it.
Let's do something.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
I also wonder how vulnerable Odium is while imprisoned.
Like to a strike from
specifically
an
whether
enemy shard?
Yes.
Specifically whether he's vulnerable at all. Like I wonder if either as part of the deal or a consequence of the deal or whatever happened between him and Honor early on, I wonder if they can strike against him.
Yeah. It's going off of the idea I had earlier.
Yep.
Oh, another thing too that kind of partially answers my question is maybe they actually don't know what they're going to do because they said if you can maintain Odium's prison in Rashar for a time, it would give us time to plan. And so they probably don't have they probably don't have everything all like planned out, but I feel like it's got to be like a more of an agent type thing than it does like a I'm gonna show up and throw down type thing.
Yeah, it has to be.
Especially,
sounds like Hoyd is just gathering allies.
At best, right? If Whimsy's the one just like traveling the Cosmere in space, it's like, okay, you could come here, but you're not going to be useful at all.
Right.
Yeah. That's just adding chaos. That's terrible. Like they're having the last desolation, and then Whimsy shows up, and they're just like, oh.
You mean
and
the true
all
desolation?
of the sprint turn into flowers.
Yeah.
Whichever desolation. No, I mean lowercase L last desolation.
Okay. Yeah.
The infamous most recent desolation.
This one. The one we're in now.
I just had a cute idea of like Jana and Whimsy like turning the sprint into different things and having fun together.
Oh.
Baida Mishram in charge of Whimsy. What could go wrong? Let's get her on the case. Boom.
We couldn't get through a Shardcast without it coming up at least once.
No. Go get that BAM in there.
Yep. So, any final thoughts? Do we think any of these are the things that are the wisdom shard that there's a shard with a similar intent? Are any of these four those?
I think it would have to be invention.
I think it is. But yeah.
And I don't like it for invention. I think wisdom, air quotes, wisdom is going to be a different shard.
Can I read Paleo's thing from 2019? So Paleo, this is paraphrased, but Paleo's trustworthy. Is wisdom a shard? If so, how bad does it want to survive? Great question. Brandon says, there is a shard with a similar intent. The shard has realized that survival might not be the most desirable / important.
I revised my guess. I think it is either one of the last two or mercy?
I was going to say mercy of these. Seems like it might fit the bill the best, but I would also maybe lean more toward it's one of the last two.
I think so too, because wisdom as an intent does not connect with mercy to me, and he's basically saying here, there's a shard with a similar intent, and this is probably the survival shard based on the way he says that.
True.
Yeah, and I could almost get with like ingenuity wisdom. Like invention is just further from wisdom than ingenuity is, right? Yeah. So I don't think it's that.
So ingenuity is almost more spontaneous.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like insight to me almost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But insight is even closer to wisdom, I think.
Insight, I just did wisdom synonym, and insight is on the list.
Well, like a spectrum of...
Yeah. The spectrum is wisdom, insight, ingenuity, invention.
Oh, gosh.
So, okay. I would say mercy could be... Well, no, if the wisdom one is the shard who wants to hide and survive, right? Then that's not necessarily a mercy. Yeah,
and I think that's what the word of Brandon is saying.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, and there was, by the way, a thing at the bottom, a footnote. Paleo later asked Brandon for clarification on this one because he couldn't quite remember the survival pot when he wrote it down. Brandon stressed again what the shard has realized. So.
Yes. So it definitely sounds like the wisdom shard was the survival shard.
Yeah, which doesn't seem like mercy. So if mercy is not that, then what's mercy doing?
Mercy.
Very good question.
Out of all of these, mercy is the strangest one to me.
Yeah. Well, they're all kind of strange in a way.
They're all kind of strange, but Valor was the one I was least sure of. Like, it was the weirdest choice for me when reading this. Mercy makes sense, like as a shard filling a gap.
Feels different, very different from others. Yeah, for sure.
But like conversations here, I'm more interested in Valor now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Love Whimsy though.
I really like Valor.
Valor
as a concept, as a shard.
Sounds cool. Sounds really cool.
I've always been drawn to these kind of characters in media.
I say Mercy's gone from my least interested to probably my most interested at this point.
There's so much that can happen with Mercy.
Yeah.
Mercy's probably the one I'm most interested in. I really like Mercy.
I think the thing with Mercy is that with all the others, I'm kind of I see their natural force kind of aspect a little bit. Maybe not so much with Valor, but with Mercy, like Mercy is so inherently human to me. Like it's a human attribute. But maybe that's okay.
Attribute.
Yeah, sure.
And like devotion.
Let's put them on the Elementic table, and we can just.
Ooh, we're almost there. We can almost start. I can't wait for seeing on the forum people trying to mess with those because now we have so much more. So it's like, all right, let's pair them.
Honor
Valor compliments is like, we're almost there. Let's go. I can't wait. Final thoughts.
Mercy and Valor is the combination that beats you up and is then like, go.
Leave. Just leave. Get out of here. Whimsy's terrifying.
Invention has spaceships.
I just want to know what the last two are.
At this stage, I was like, Brandon, please. You can't leave us hanging at 14 of 16.
You really can.
We're probably not going to know for... a very
10 years. It could be 10, 20 years before we get another shard.
He should have doled them out sparingly rather than dumping all four at once.
I love this. This is a moment that will never ever happen again. Like, this is awesome.
True,
literally.
It's literally awesome.
Yeah, I know. I want to know that last shard because I feel pretty confident as wisdom or a synonym being the survival shard at this point. But the one that we've got, the no data shard, I'm like, come on, we got to get a hint.
There's an interesting implication that maybe, like, I think autonomy is that one shard that I almost said Hoyd. Harmony is referring to is that he can't see, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
There could be
Yes,
another
definitely.
shard involved with that potentially. Like, I think that's
Yeah.
plausible. That like
a shard of secrecy or obfuscation or something
Yeah.
like
Ooh,
that.
that's
Obfuscation
actually
is what I was
interesting.
thinking, Yeah.
Gods are mysterious.
Yeah, it's
What about,
that
like,
mystery.
Oh, God of mystery.
Or just like mystery.
Esotericism, something like that.
Just mystery as an intent. I
don't like,
actually
yeah.
like that.
I don't like mystery. It's not a novel. It's got to be more godly.
Let's see.
That's why I'm saying like
mystery
esoteric,
synonyms.
like that sort of thing. Like secrecy is more my like.
Secrecy.
Mm.
What about like inexplicability? Like that's kind of
That's
whimsy
a
though.
mouthful.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
Rolls
not.
off the
I'm
tongue.
thinking. I'm not coming with like a name. I'm going with like an idea here. I don't have a snappy idea
shard
for an
of
intent.
obscurity.
Enigma. Peculiar.
Enigma's really good.
Enigma's good. I like Enigma.
But it doesn't
Either
have like.
that,
It's got to end in a
or-
Y.
it could be a 10th pancake situation, and Brandon comes and is like, there actually isn't a 16th shard lol. And then we're all just lift.
yeah.
Ambiguity.
Oh.
It's on there.
Oh yeah.
This entire episode, or at least ever since we talked about whimsy, maybe like being like a trickster god type of thing,
Mhm.
I've been trying to map the shards to like Greco-Roman gods. And like whimsy would be the Loki of them all, and valor would be the Ares
I
of
like
them
how
all.
you said Loki as if that's a Greco-Roman god.
Greco-Roman god.
Oh,
Greco-Roman Nordic.
Yeah. You know, the Greco-Roman god of Thor and Loki, you know, on Asgard. Yeah.
and also I went through a phase where I was trying to map the shards to Avengers.
Okay,
Right?
right.
Like
Whimsy is still
which
Loki.
Avenger is the most valorous of them all, right?
Captain America.
Well, I thought of Captain
I think he'd be
America,
Honor.
He's
Honor.
smarter.
but he
Yeah.
felt like honor to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking
Honor
like
versus
Thor
valor.
is valor. Yeah.
Maybe we can do an episode on like mapping these things.
Look, we have 14 of the 16. We could probably blab a lot more. We will blab a lot more on these shards. Because this is 4 shards. How much have we talked on like a single shard? A lot.
I mean,
Each one of these could be an episode.
Well, granted, we do have very little on these.
Yeah.
So at least with Odium after Oathbreaker, it's like, okay, well, we have a lot to talk about on this, right?
Not that having very little canon information has ever stopped.
No.
Yes, not.
What about Vax? Let's talk about Vax. Which
We had
one
a
of these
whole-
shards is most likely to be on Vax? If it's a
We had a whole
Uh,
podcast
Whimsy.
about Rira. which
I
we
would
don't think
also
about.
go with whimsy because it's like at that time, like Sazed was reshaping the world, so everything was changing. So like Vax might always be changing, and that's why Ati was confused.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That's a valid point. The one I was gonna make is because initiation is weird on Vax, and
Mhm.
that is in line with the weird shard.
Mm-hmm.
Dang it, guys.
We gotta end this podcast.
All right, we gotta go. You know what time it is, guys? It's time for Who's That Cosmere character? A clean 2 hours, 19 minutes.
I thought you were going to say it's time to skip. Who's that Cosmere character?
No.
I was going to ask, I was like, are we still doing it? Because we've been going for
No,
like,
let's do it. Let's do it.
Long, cool.
I just like how our part 2 Oathbringer epigraphs, where we talk about those letters. Do you know how long that was? That was like 46 minutes. This episode is not.
Really?
Yeah, seriously. I'm shocked.
We've had 3 years to hone our trade since then. We're ready.
And by honing our trade is means stretching this out as much as possible. We're not stretching it out intentionally. It just happens.
Pretty
We just
exciting.
talk
We
a
also we also have more people in this episode than you guys
That's
did
true.
on that one.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Bigger cast.
Bigger cast.
This character is from Roshar.
Menace.
Tien.
Tom.
Braze.
Void in drag on a horse.
It's time for Who's That Cosmere character? Caw.
Welcome to Who's That Cosmic Character, the show where you guys send in 5 clues and a character, and then we read out the 5 clues, and then these guys have to guess the character, and if they guess it, then they're great. If they don't, then they suck.
Well, statistically speaking, Ian will be great at this.
Yes.
Statistically.
Cool. Let's go with this first one then.
No.
This one was sent in by Hot on a Hill.
Oh, yeah. Hot on a Hill. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Howdy.
First clue is this character is originally from Roshar.
Ooh, originally from... That's got to just be a troll that it's just a Rosharan. And it's like, well, I mean, all Rosharans
No, I was going to say that one.
It is not Mraze.
I was even like, I got to say it the same way as it is in the Who's That Cosmic Character. Anyway.
I'm sorry.
In the intro? Right?
Yeah.
In the intro.
Like, now I got to think of somebody else. Mean.
And it's clearly not going to be Rhythm of War characters, so that's important for our listeners to remember.
Yeah.
And when you submit Rhythm of War characters, we'll see you in 5 years when we get to the...
I'm gonna guess Leshwi.
It is not Leshwi.
Both of these are excellent guesses.
Yeah.
I was just going to say Renarin because somebody took my other answer.
I'm sorry. You can't guess the Heralds. They weren't from, at least most of them. You can rule those out.
You know what, Ben? We're just going to start with Ba Edo Mishram, okay? And even though we don't actually know if she is originally Rosharan, but screw it.
Agreed. It is not Ba Edo Mishram.
Okay.
Clue number 2.
Wait, Ben?
Argent not
Sorry.
go.
Yeah, since we're all picking favorites, I'll just guess Yasna.
Okay.
It is not Yasna.
I mean, that's safe.
Yeah. Clue number 2. This character is knowledgeable.
Ooh.
Yoshi, Yasna's pen pal.
It is not that person.
Nice.
Who Ben doesn't know who that is.
I do. I can't remember how you say their name.
Knowledgeable.
I'm going to say Alysta.
Yeah,
It is not Alysta. That's a good guess.
I'll say Batar, just because we're picking heralds. I don't know.
Technically, all the heralds have knowledge.
Right? I was like, who's the scholarly?
They're not from Roshar, though.
It's not
they're
Batar.
not.
Yeah, they're not from Roshar.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh, well.
the Stormfather.
It is not the Stormfather, but I like the way your mind is.
He doesn't know anything. He knows nothing about Dalinar's powers.
I'm gonna guess Hesse, the author of Mythica.
Ooh.
Oh my God. Ian! It's simply allowed. It is Hesse. The author of Hesse's Mythica.
We don't know if Hesse's originally Rosharan. We don't know that at all.
I object.
More than skill.
Yeah, well, he still got it before all of you.
What?
Wow.
Sorry, we're trying to fit things with actual clues. I say guessing by Mishra.
All right. Other 4, we have to not let Ian win too. It's always my goal.
We need to wrap these up quick because this is such a long episode.
What are the other clues?
Right on it.
What are the other
Clue
clues?
number 3. This character wrote a lot. Clue number 4. We don't see this character on the screen. And clue number 5 was this character is female.
Okay, all right.
Cool.
Except for the first clue, that's totally unjustified at this stage.
I
But
guess. It doesn't have a lot of character. Like, those things are all true, but I bet I could find like a bunch of other characters that fit most of those. That's all right.
Point.
let's criticize your Who's That Cosmic character.
Shall we?
I'm not the only one who's ever done that ever.
No, you're certainly not, David. That is certainly true.
This one was sent in by Kimball Black.
Awesome.
Hello.
Clue number 1. This character is dead.
Jezrien.
What does it mean to be dead?
My opening salvo is Jezrien.
It's not Yezrien.
Screw you.
Lida.
Maya.
It's not Uladar, or it is Maya.
What? Dang.
Hey,
Alrighty
well
then.
done.
Wow. All
We
right.
really
Well,
are
we got
going
the Who's That
quick.
Cosmic characters way quicker.
Nice and sharpish there. Clue number 2 was this character is not human. Clue number 3 is this character doesn't talk much. Clue number 4 is this character does not like to leave another character. And clue number 5 was this character is a sprint.
Nice.
Nice.
Awesome. Well,
Wow,
guys,
we did this very quickly.
We did, surprisingly so. Well, we hope you guys enjoyed this first and long Rhythm of War podcast. I believe next time will be Rhythm of War reactions, and I don't know how that's supposed to go, so that will probably also be long, because if you've read the full book by now, you know that there's a lot to talk about. So
much.
Yeah.
There's some big events.
Yeah. So, So we're going to talk about that for a long time. We're going to have weekly podcasts for the next while.
Time.
Yeah.
While.
Yeah, I don't know
For the
when.
next time.
Like around at least through the holidays for sure. I can say that. Pretty.
The one thing we
confidently.
can promise you, there will be plenty of content.
There will be lots
Yes.
to talk about. The drought is over. We finally have new Cosmere. Oh,
Woo.
the water. We finally got out of the desert.
What
And we're
content?
just-
Ice storm has come.
Drenched in creme.
Yeah.
4 shards. 4. What the crap? All right. You know where you can talk about Rhythm of War? On 17shard.com. You can talk in any one of our Rhythm of War forums, because we have multiple boards, so whatever topic you like talking about, you can go there. You can go to our Discord, where we have slightly less than the amount of forums that we have, and it's been chaotic already. But, you know, that's fine. Come to Discord. We'll chat about Rhythm of War. And you can find us on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes. You can support us on Patreon. I think I forgot Facebook and Twitter. Whatever. That's fine. No one goes there. And occasionally Twitch. Not often, but
There's icons down there.
there's icons there that denote things that don't have links. So, you know.
Yeah.
That's helpful. Yeah. All right. So we will see you all next time.
Bye.
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 Bye, and don't spoil other people.
Don't spoil other people in
Be
the
nice.
comments. Yeah, don't do that.
Be nice.
Or
Dumbledore
anywhere.
dies.
God.
What?
Need to be the case that there are still differences between the vessel and the shard.
Like they even after these thousands of years, race and odium, race still hasn't quite reached that equilibrium. Maybe that 80 managed
Mhm.
with ruin.
You should close the window.
Screaming.
There are
those children outside?
Literally
Screaming
screaming children outside.
Someone kill those children.
Odium, get him.
which is very appropriate as a backdrop to an Odium conversation.
Yeah,
Absolutely. But the thing is that the room's getting really hot and you can see me getting really sweaty already.
yeah, but the sound
We'll,
quality is more
I'll just get
important than your
sweatier.
comfort.
Can I turn my box fan just like right off screen here?
No.
Like,
I could literally hear Argent's fan in a recent episode, and that was like
no.
apparently in a totally different room. And I was like, I can always hear it when you talk.
I remember that.
All right, are you ready, Ben?
No, I'm fact checking one of the submissions and I don't think
Okay.
it's correct, so I'm going to
that's
not
good.
use it.
Uh-oh. Okay. I'll just
Yeah.
keep talking about nonsense until then.
What if we talk about Vax some more? So, do you think the
Vax,
shard
yes.
who wanted to hide
Oh,
and
I like this
survive went to Vax to hide and survive? And that's what we don't know about it. What if he hide and survive on Yolan? Because no one knows where Yolan is for some reason. Chris doesn't, at least. Easy.
Well,
it's been shrouded by the shard of ambiguity, man.
Easy. Nailed it.
Shard of obscurity.
Yeah.
I think obscurity is my new
Ooh,
favorite for the
obscurity.
secret
Security
shard.
is nice. I do
Isn't that
like
a nice shard name?
That's a pretty nice
Oh,
shard
no.
name. Maybe
Eh,
you should
I
edit
like
this in,
Enigma.
actually.
Also, I think when you guys get like really annoyed about like terminology in the Cosmere and like, is this capitalized or isn't it? Why did you call it a splinter here and a sliver there? Like, I just want to assume that there's many schools of thought about this in Silverlight, and everyone argues
Oh,
about what the
yeah.
right
Oh,
terms are.
100%.
Screw
Unlike it's all
that.
a totally
No.
in world.
Oh
People
yeah, no.
use different.
Stormfather was just
The-
thinking about this Cosmere terminology differently. No, Brandon,
The
why
first-
would you do this?
Vasher
first
just
fanfiction I
changed
wrote.
his all
Here,
of his
someone ring my doorbell.
classifications.
One sec.
No worries.
Oh.
The first fanfiction I wrote was about a couple of guys in Silverlight arguing over the dictionary.
You know, like some people use splinters and some people use slivers. And
Hell.
it's just,
David finally has a good Splinter article, and how the hell are we supposed to do Sliver? It's impossible.